and he's buried in the pit, in the sea. The king who was slain, and he's being brought back to life in Revelation 9:11, and his name is Abaddon or Apollyon, which means the destroyer. What happened at Waco? What happened at Oklahoma City? What happened to John F. Kennedy? What happened to John Paul I? What happened on September 11th, 2001? The destroyer struck again. These buildings look like a giant number 11. These buildings were exactly 110 stories tall. That's 11 times 10, by the way. Let's see. The first plane flies in there. That's Flight 11. And then we have the pilot of Flight 11, whose name is Muhammad Atta. He's 33 years old. A sacrifice takes place. Nearly 3,000 some odd people are ritualistically slain in New York amongst the 7 buildings there. 2 of them look like a gigantic number 11. And just to kind of reinforce the mood, you know, the buildings are down and they're digging through the rubble, and they decided we need a memorial for these. So they send 2 lights like towers whose top is reaching into heaven. By the way, steel construction began on these 2 towers 1968. 33 years later, in 2001, they come crashing down by Flight 11, by being flown by a 33-year-old man. And so they light these 2 lights in the sky for exactly 33 nights. And then they take them out. It's a pattern, isn't it? It just kind of keeps going and going and going. These two towers themselves were emblems of the 2 pillars inside of Solomon's temple, Jachin and Boaz. Remember, they were both 23 cubits tall, which makes 46. And then on that same day, we have the destruction of a great big, gigantic, huge altar called the Pentagon, which just happens to be, let's see, in the 77 from Waco to Dallas to Oklahoma City. And then the Pentagon is exactly 77 feet tall, and allegedly Flight 77 slams into this building, and Washington, D.C. itself falls upon the 77th meridian. Kind of a little pattern going on here. Something is, why wasn't it on the 71st? Why wasn't it Flight 71? Why wasn't it these things? It was this particular thing. And I mentioned the Pentagon being like an altar. An altar is where you sacrifice. And in witchcraft, in Satanism, the pentagram is the most powerful symbol they have. Why is that? Because it matches what's in the Bible. Isaiah chapter 14, Lucifer says, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. It's what he says, 5. So the pentagram represents his 5-point plan. The pentagram is used, a woman lays herself out, and she becomes the altar. She lays herself out in the form of the pentagram, and then a ritual called the Great Rite Ritual takes place. And the priest comes into her. That's what happened on September 11th, 2001. And then she is slain ritualistically. It's all there, sort of just right in front of our eyes. Back a few years ago, we started doing the Watchman video broadcast. God led us into that ministry. And boy, I tell you what, we have seen a lot of things happen just in the last 2 years. We noted that there was a tremendous earthquake in Haiti on January the 12th, and then we saw another one in Chile on February the 27th, and I just kind of did some counting, and I noted that a lot of people died from these things, that they were exactly 46 days apart, precisely. And I also noticed something that a lot of people didn't catch, was that Haiti and Chile, the exact locations of both of these earthquakes, 46 days apart, they were both on the 72nd line of longitude, or the 72nd meridian. That number 72 has everything to do with a sacred number in the Kabbalah. It references the 72 names of God. In the Sistine Chapel, there are 36 pillars down this way and 36 pillars down this way. That equals 72. You have the 72 sacred names of God, that when these 72 names are invoked, it will bring mankind to a new consciousness or a new awareness. You might see, this idea of these 72 pillars in the Sistine Chapel. And the Sistine Chapel, remember, is where the finger of God is touching the finger of Adam, and it's going to give him life and illumination. Remember that. Let's go back to JFK. They built a memorial in Dallas, Texas, 30 right close to the 33rd parallel. They built a memorial to the man who was 46, who received a deadly wound in his head, in Dallas, Texas, and they mark it. There's just a little bronze plaque on the ground showing, okay, he's buried. And he isn't really buried there. The bronze plaque on the ground, surrounded by 72 pillars. Bet you didn't know that. It's all related somehow, some way. And we were talking about the Chile earthquakes and the Haiti earthquakes. And then, on April 20th, that's the 110th day of the year, 11 times 10, and you have the 110-story towers and 9/11. And on April 20th, 11 people died because of an explosion on a BP oil drill off coast in the Gulf of Mexico. That BP logo, you remember they changed their logo. They had this, kind of a shield thing, and now they have this lotus flower. Let me tell you what this lotus is about before I tell you, the number associated with this. The lotus is believed to be, in all the, like the Eastern religions and things like that, it's a sacred flower. That when it unfolds, that in the center point of the locust, there's something hiding in there. There's a secret inside of there. That secret is this new Messiah, this Maitreya, this Christ. He's hiding in there, and the lotus conceals him. The lotus surrounds him, and this beast is the center point. I think it's like Brahma or something like that. He is the center point of the lotus, and the lotus conceals his secret. This BP logo has 72 petals on this lotus, and they're concealing a secret that has something to do with the ritualistic killing on April 20th of 11 people. Then our attentions was drawn. It just seems like it's just like one thing now after another. All of a sudden we're hearing news down in Chile again that we have these men who have descended down into the depths of the earth. They're miners, and there was exactly 33 of them. And that caught my attention. We started looking at it. 33 miners. The date that they became trapped in that mine was 8/5/10. You add that up, that's 23. When they went to go after the miners, they drilled for exactly 33 days. Then they reached the pit on day 66. By the way, May 1st this year, they announced the death of Bin Laden. That happens to be the same day, 66 years ago, that they announced the death of Adolf Hitler. The guy who was going to take over the world with a 1,000-year reign. It's just all something real creepy going on here. Anyway, they reached the pit on day 66. They ascended out of the pit on the 69th day, which is 23 times 3, on the date of 10/13/10. That's a 33. And oh, by the way, the capsule that brought them out was called the Phoenix. The Phoenix is a symbol in the occult. The Phoenix is a symbol of the God who has died and was thrown into the fire, and he's going to be